This is tutorial 2 for the Modular Zone plugin for the Ogitor scene editor. This will demonstrate how to use the plugin to assemble a level out of predefined zones, which we showed in how to make in tutorial 1. This is useful for creating levels suitable to use the portal connected zone scene manager. The green square there shows where the portal on this particular zone is, and that's the containing mesh that of the zone. We just assembled a very simple level using these zones we have prepared. When you align, it's designed so that when you align two portals, they'll snap together, so you don't have to position it precisely yourself. Yeah. Now that one is now locked into position. We select this portal using the right mouse button. From the context menu we have the option to link the two portals together, so that when you export the level using the .scene exporter, it'll list these two zones connecting for those. The portals on either side will have each destination zone indicated by that linkage there. When it's connected, it'll turn red so that you know that it's connected, and also the meshes will be locked in position so you don't accidentally separate them if you accidentally select the wrong item. There's a bug in the plugin so far, so that this color coding doesn't stay correct. Sometimes might revert to a different color, that bug will have to be fixed later. So we'll just continue to assemble this very simple level, linking that again. We'll just do one last room. I'll just use the rotate tool there to get that in mostly the right position, and the move tool to finish off, and we'll link that one. Okay, so now we have the level defined. So in the and when we export that using the .scene exporter, we have this information that we can use to load it up into the we can write a loader program that'll be able to connect this up correctly using the portal connected zone scene manager. Now, when everything in using that particular scene manager, every single object in the game world has to be attached to a node and also positioned in, and that node should be positioned in a specific zone so that the system can render it. So when we add an object, for example just something simple like a mesh, we need to indicate what zone it is. You have to use a custom property, which I added a shortcut to here, to add a little string property that listed the name of the zone that an object was in, but I've now replaced that requirement by setting up so you can actually use the node hierarchy to indicate what zone something is in. So if we just move that into this zone here, just sit that on the floor there. Now so if we just select that zone so we know where we are, what we're looking at, that's that zone there. So if we just select that cube here in the Explorer on the left hand side, and we can just click and drag that into that particular zone. So now when we load that level up, we will be able to use the scene node hierarchy to tell which zone to put that in when we load it into the scene manager. So that you can do that using for something like a simple mesh, or something other objects, for example a marker. You might want to use a marker to indicate a player start or a waypoint or something. So just put that into the level, and then we'll have a look. That's that zone there, so we'll just drag that in there, and so we can now know that that is in that particular zone there. We might want to add a custom property to that tells us what kind of marker we're using, you know, player starter or waypoint, or some sort of spawn point for monsters or whatever. We can also do something more complicated than this one here. Is actually a little combination of more than one object, which I've saved as a template here. So what we have there, if we expand that, is we have a mesh and a particle system and a light attached together. You can't actually see what the particle system is, but it's just a burning flame, so that at runtime that will look like a burning torch with the light linked to it. And that's, if we just select that, we can move that around together, and we can also move that whole hierarchy into this zone, which is that one there. Move that up there, so everything there on that little collection of objects is now in that zone. So we'll be able to load that into the level to have a light sitting there, and so it's like that. So obviously this level's not a very good example of something for using the portal connected zone scene manager. This is the actual overhead. With something so small, the overhead of processing the portals will probably outweigh any benefit in culling objects from the scene. It's more suited to much larger zones and much more complex levels, but this is just for example. You can also use this plugin if you just wanted to have, if you had some sort of tile based setup with rooms, you know, like these, a maze type thing. You could just assemble them out of pieces and just use the snap to functionality to make sure they all joined up in the correct positions, so that and just load it as using a normal Octree scene manager and just use it for positioning purposes. Okay, that's all for this tutorial. Thank you. Oh, one other thing, if you need to separate a couple of zones that are connected, you can use the unlink option. That'll separate those portals, and now that can be moved around freely. Reconnected and linked up again. And one little other thing to note is that due to the way locking of objects works. When you save and reload things, unfortunately the objects in that are inside a zone will be loaded as locked, and you'll have to move them out of the zone and then back in again if you wanted to reposition them after you've reloaded them. So try and get things in the right position before you save and reload. Okay, good.